Originali.
Ancora Alan Bennett, ancora la raccolta Talking Heads del 1988, dalla quale abbiamo già ascoltato A Chip in the Sugar e 2 parti di Miss Fozzard Finds Her Feet. Stasera la terza. Bentornati a Lingue Originali su Caffè Italia. Nuovo appuntamento con Marco Piovaz nell'appuntamento del venerdì sera con la lingua inglese. Domani, sabato, ritroveremo Nadia Meroni con la lingua tedesca e domenica sera, sempre alle ore 22, Barbara Marchand con la lingua francese. E allora, dalla voce di Marco Piovaz, la terza ed ultima parte di Miss Fozzard Finds Her Feet, dalla raccolta Talking Heads di Alan Bennett.
I don't know what's got into people at work. I come in this morning and the commissioner with the moustache, who's on the staff door, says, "Have a good day, my duck." I said, "You may only have one arm, Mr. Cupstick, but that doesn't entitle you to pat me on the bottom." Next thing is, I'm invoicing some loose covers in dispatch when one of the work experience youths, who can't be more than 16, gives me a silly wink. I said to Estelle, "My Viella 2-piece doesn't normally have this effect." She said, "Well, they're just wanting to be friendly." I said, "Friendly? Estelle, I may not be a feminist, though I did spearhead the provision of potpourri in the ladies' toilets, but people are not going to pat my bottom with impunity." Estelle says, "No, the boot's on the other foot," and starts giggling. I said to Joy Poyser, "However she manages to interest anyone in serious vinyl flooring, I do not understand." House dark when I got in. I imagine they're in the sitting room, the pair of them. Only I call out and there's no sound. So I get my tea and read the Evening Post. Nice to have the place to myself for a change. Then I go into the sitting room and there's Bernard sitting there in the dark. I put the light on and he's got the Atlas open. I said, "What are you doing in the dark?" He said, "Looking up the Maldive Islands." "Why?" I said. "You're not going on holiday?" He said, "No, I'm not. How can I go on bloody holiday? What with?" And he shoves a bank statement at me. I've a feeling he's been crying, and I'm not sure where to put myself. So I go put the kettle on while I look at his statement. There's practically nothing in it. Money taken out nearly every day. I said, "What's this?" He said, "It's that tart from Hobart." I said, "Miss Malloy, but she's a qualified physiotherapist." He said, "Yes, and she's something else. She's a, what do you call it, female dog." I said, "Did you sign these checks?" He said, "Of course I signed them." I said, "What were you doing? Practicing writing?" He said, "No." I said, "Where is she?" He said, "The Maldive Islands, where I was going to be." I said, "Well, we must contact the police. It's fraud, is this?" He said, "No, it isn't." I said, "What did you think these checks were for?" He said, "I knew what they were for services rendered. And I don't mean lifting me on and off the, what's it called? It's stuff she did for me." I said, "What stuff?" He said, "You know." I said, "Remember what Mr. Clarkson Hall says, Bernard. Trace a path round the world." He said, "I don't have to trace a path round the bloody word. I know the word. It's you that doesn't. You don't know bloody nothing." I said, "Well, one thing is plain. Despite your cerebral accident, your capacity for foul language remains unimpaired." He said, "You're right, it bloody does." I made him some tea. I said, "She's made a fool of you." Bernard said, "You can speak." I said, "You mean talk?" "I know I can speak. The expression is you can talk. Anyway, why?" He said, "Monkeying about with your foot, fella." I said, "Mr. Dunderdale, what's this got to do with it?" He said, "Little games and whatnot. He's obviously I said, "A what?" He said, thing. I said, skirt a path round the word, Bernard. A what? He said, skirt it yourself, you stupid 4 legs, 2 horns, where you get milk. I said, cow. You normally remember that. I was telling Joy Poyser about it, and she said, well, why did you tell him about the chiropodist? I said, Mr. Clarkson Hall said that I should talk to him. It's part of the therapy. She said, it's not part of the therapy for Estelle Metcalfe, is it? You told her. She's not had a stroke. Apparently, she spread it all over the store. Anyway, I came upstairs, left him crying over the atlas, when suddenly I hear a crash. I said, Bernard? Bernard. Oh, Bernard. Estelle ventured into soft furnishings yesterday. First time for a week. Testing the water, I suppose. Said Neville was taking part in the Battle of Marston Moor on Sunday. She's going along as a camp follower, but they're short of 1 or 2 dishevelled Roundhead matrons, and was I interested? I said, it's kind of you to offer, Estelle, but I think from now I'd be well advised to keep a low profile. People don't like to think you have a proper life. That's what I've decided. Or any more of a life than they know about. Then when they find out, they think it's shocking. Else, funny, I never thought I had a life. It was always Bernard who had the life. He's worse this time than the last. Eyes used to follow you then. Not now. Log. Same rigmarole though. Talk to him, treat him like a person. Not that he ever treated me like a person. Meanwhile, Madam is laid out on the beach in the Maldives. He was on the rug when I found him, 2 inches the other way, and he'd have hit his head on the fender. Lucky escape. I'd written to Mr. Dunderdale cancelling any further appointments. I didn't say why, just that with Bernard being poorly again, it wasn't practical anyway, which it wasn't. So it was back to normal, sitting with Bernard, doing a few little jobs. I'd forgotten how long an evening could be. Anyway, I was coming away from work one night, and the big brownie-coloured car draws up beside me. The windows comes down and blow me if it isn't Mr. Dunderdale. He said, "Good evening, Miss Fozzard. Could I tempt you up to Lawnswood? I'd like a chat." I said, "Could we not talk here?" He said, "Not in the way I'd like. I'm on a double yellow line." So I get in and he runs me up there, and whatever else you can say about him, he's a very accomplished driver. Anyway, he sits me down in his study and gives me a glass of sherry and says, why did I not want to come and see him anymore? Well, I didn't know what to say. I said, "It isn't as if I don't look forward to my appointments." He said, "Well, dear lady, I look forward to them too." I said, "But now that I have to get help in for Bernard again, I can't afford to pay you." He said, "Well, may I make a suggestion? Why don't we reverse the arrangement?" I said, "Come again?" He said, "Do it vice versa. I pay you." I said, "Well, it's very unusual." He said, "You're a very unusual woman." I said, "Am I? Why?" He said, "Because you're a free spirit, Miss Fozzard. You make your own rules." I said, "Well, I like to think so." He said, "I'm the same. We are two of a kind, you and I, Miss Fozzard. Mavericks. Have you ever had any champagne?" I said, "No, but I've seen it at the conclusion of motor races." He said, "Allow me. To the future?" It's all very decorous. Quite often he'll make us a hot drink and we'll just sit and turn over the pages of one of his many books on the subject, or converse on matters related. I remarked the other day how I'd read that Imelda Marcos had a lot of shoes. He said she did, and she suffered for it at the bar of world opinion, in my view, Miss Fozzard, unjustly. little envelope on the table as I go out, never mentioned. And if there's been anything beyond the call of duty, there'll be that little bit extra. Buys me no end of shoes, footwear generally. I keep thinking where it is all going to end, but we'll walk that plank when we come to it. I've never had the knack of making things happen. I thought things happened, or they didn't. Which is to say, they didn't. Only now they have. Sort of. Bernard gets an attendance allowance now, and what with that and the envelopes from Mr. Dunderdale, I can stay on at work and still have someone in to look after him. Men this time. Mr. Albright. Pensioner, so he's glad of a job. Classy little fella, keen on railways, and reckons to be instigating Bernard into the mysteries of chess. Though Mr. Albright has to play both sides, of course. At one point I said to Mr. Dunderdale, people might think this rather peculiar, particularly in Lawnswood. He said, well, people would be wrong. We are just enthusiasts, Miss Fozzard. You and I. And there's not enough enthusiasm in the world this day. Now with those Wellingtons are comfy, I just want you in your own time and as slowly as you like, very gently, to mark time on my bottom. Occasionally he'll have some music on. I said, I suppose that makes this the same as aerobics. He said, if you like. It's droll, but the only casualty in all this is my feet. Because nowadays the actual chiropody gets pushed to one side a bit. If I want an MOT, I really have to nail him down. We're still Mr. Dunderdale and Miss Fozzard, and I've not said anything to anybody at work. Learned my lesson there. Anyway, people keep saying how well I look. I suppose there's a word for what I'm doing, but I skirt round it.
A Lingue Originali, Marco Piovaz ha letto per voi in lingua inglese. Lo ritroveremo su Caffè Italia la prossima settimana, venerdì, sempre alle ore 22. Ma Lingue Originali è in onda anche il sabato con Nadia Meroni, con la lettura in lingua tedesca, e la domenica con Barbara Marchand, per quella in lingua francese. Vi ringraziamo per l'ascolto e vi diamo appuntamento a Lingue Originali fra 7 giorni, sempre su Caffè Italia, la radio e il podcast dalla Roma italiano e non solo.
Lingue Originali.